to start a business here, it has to be clear if you have the capacity and also if you have the legal permission. German system is highly bureaucratic in nature. So I had to do an unlimited liability, a sole proprietorship, because I don't have the capital base to go into other kind of limited liability companies.
Welcome to Africans in Diaspora show, where we tell the stories of Africans one video at a time. Listen and enjoy.
My name is Cjay and I'm from Nigeria. I've been living here for approximately 14 years now. I have two things I do. I work in a company and I also run a consulting firm, a private consulting firm. I work in a company that produces what they call fuel cell device. So fuel cell device is something that in renewable energy that uses methanol and hydrogen in generating electricity with focus in areas of less grid and of course in industry. So I'm privileged to be a head of a department. I'm heading two departments, inside sales and shipping department. So inside sales are those ones that are constant exchange with customers, starting from customers' inquiries down to order confirmation. So shipping are those ones that transport the goods to customers, depending on where the goods are going, international or local. Like I said, I also do a private consultation. I run a consulting firm. So my consulting firm is as a result of my thesis. I did my bachelor degree here in international management. My topic was impact of cultural difference on negotiation between Germans and Nigerians. So what I did was to see, is there cultural difference between Nigerians and Germans, and does such cultural difference, if it exists, does it affect business transaction between Nigerians and Germans? When I finished my thesis, I discovered there are a lot of cultural differences, even though there are similarities. The differences affect business between Germans and Nigerians. So in order to bridge this gap, I now decided to open a consulting firm that supports German companies or European companies that want to go into Nigerian markets, and also to support Nigerian companies that want to come into European markets. Coming in this context means they want to buy goods, they want to establish company, they want to trade in European community, or they want to do things in Nigeria. So what I do is to bridge the gap of cultural difference between Germans and Nigerians, precisely on the area of procurement, supply chain, intercultural negotiation, intercultural trainings. So these are most of the things we do. The first thing I did was to identify the problem, the need people have. Then the second thing I did was to review what are the processes, what are the things I need. So in doing this, I use a model, what they call a business model canvas, that shows you, is a kind of a model that shows you all the things you need in a business to establish a business, like key partners, key resources, channel you reach to your people, what are the key activities you are going to do, what are the pros and cons, what are the things you need to. So when you have this clearly stated, the next thing was to think about the authorities, which kind of office, where you need to go to get the permission. I went to what they call Gewerbeamt. In Nigerian context, I think it would be something like a Corporate Affairs Commission. I told them exactly what I wanted to do. It was clear to me that I didn't have the capital base for limited liability. So I had to do an unlimited liability, a sole proprietorship, because I don't have the capital base to go into other kind of limited liability companies. So this is the first thing I did. They gave me a form, which I filled, telling them exactly what I want to do, exactly the scope of my business. And they now issued the certificate, what they call Gewerbeschein. Gewerbeschein is in Nigerian context a kind of corporate affairs commission certificate that enables you to do the business. And this registration automatically triggers entry into the tax authority, office of the tax authority. So they receive the information from this Gewerbeamt that you have registered a company. So automatically they will give you a tax ID for your company, and also the same way, because my company deals with export and import. So I need what they call Economic Operators Reference Identification Number. So this is a number that enables you to do customs declarations. So I got this number from the customs authority, I got a tax, I got the certificate to company. These are the first step I did, and of course I had to do some due diligence before I started this process to know exactly what is expected of me. Then after the registration, I started paying attention on how things are done here in terms of documentation, in terms of communication, in terms of processes. So I had a very clear documentation. Of course, most of these things are things I did my studies in my bachelor degree and also in my MBA program. So I had a very clear template on everything I need to do, how to send an order to customer, how to make an order confirmation, how to write an invoice, how to write a packing list, what do I need to do when I do customs declaration, what do I do when I deliver goods to customer, what are the insurance policies, how do I do insurance. These are things that I had a laid down documentation on how they work, and I had a template of it. So the next thing also was to have people that I always ask questions, because in case I don't know anything, things like a tax consultant, things like people who guide me on customs process. If I need questions, I have questions on these areas. So, and I started building my network both in Nigeria and the German system through LinkedIn contact, through connections, build network, tell people this is what I do. An advantage I would say is that there is a clear process and structure. If you want to calculate, do an offer to a customer here, you know exactly how much will be the transportation cost. You know exactly how much will be the customs. You know exactly how much will be the tax. So you have these pictures because it's a structured process. So you can calculate it and give your customer. And here there is a laid down legal process, which if you understand the legal process, you know when you are having a binding discussion with customer, you know when you are not having a non-binding discussion. So these are the advantages. If there is a damage on your good, for instance, here, you know the processes, who will pay, to what extent. So these are the kind of advantages you have here, being that the system is structured and organized. Another advantage you have here is access to credit facilities. If you want to access your bank, unlike in Nigeria where the interest rate is, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's above 15%. Here you could get some good credits that are good in terms of interest rate. So, and you can easily access them because the system here enables you to access such thing. I wouldn't call it a disadvantage, but I would say it's a different way of doing things. German system is highly bureaucratic in nature. Bureaucratic means that you have to be very certain on everything you do. It has to be documented. There's a German wording that says no posting without invoice and no invoice without posting. So it means that for every single thing you do, it has to be documented. The invoice has to be correct, has to be accurate. So for people like us who are coming from a different culture, you will see it as a kind of stress in doing business here. Not really like a disadvantage because it's their own process. So it's highly bureaucratic. Then secondly, also when you are assessing companies, the way they do their things, I think they are very slow in doing things. If a Nigerian customer is asking you, give me an order, give me a price for this, somebody might even call you on the phone, give me the price in the next 20 minutes. German companies, they find it difficult to do like this. They do it very, very slow. You ask for a price today, it will take like 2, 3, 4 days for them to give you the price back. By then, the customer in Nigeria has ended up buying things from somewhere else. So this is bureaucracy in the process, bureaucracy in the system is one of the hitches I got. And of course, at the beginning, when you want to start a business, most of the companies here, they find it difficult to send you goods without you paying immediately. And because of capital need, you might have challenges that you will not be able to buy the goods because you don't have enough capital. These are the challenges. For you to start a business here, it has to be clear if you have the capacity and also if you have the legal permission. So these are two things. Capacity is something that you have to know exactly what you want to do and say if you have the capacity or not. The legal requirement is something that is made up of different organizations, different government offices. So the first one is going to the Corporate Affairs Commission to explain what you want to do. If they have further questions on your visa type, if they have further questions on your personality, they will also tell you. So visa type, or kind of visa you need to study to do a business here is mostly will be defined or will be explained by the foreign office, who now tells you, okay, because you're a student, you can do this kind of business. Because you are living here for a long time, you can do it or you cannot. So it varies depending on kind of business you want to do. Somebody who wants to open a barbing salon here will not be the same with somebody who wants to do something that has to do with customs. So something that has to do with international trade, you might need to have some certain level of qualification. Not because of the bureaucracy, but my experience is that if you don't have those kind of information, if you don't have those kind of knowledge, it might be very challenging for you to excel in such business. First thing I must say that it's very, very good to try it, because it will give you the privilege of working for yourself and measuring your capacity. That's first thing. The second thing is that you need to be very clear on the expectation, both expectation from the state and expectation from maybe your clients, especially on the state. A state means that if you are dealing something that has to a tax-related transaction, you have to know exactly what kind of tax you are paying. Because if you don't know these things, you end up selling something to a customer thinking that you made a profit. But at the end of the day, when the tax will come, you end up making loss. So if you need to understand what kind of tax am I expected to pay? What is the tax rate am I expected to pay? Because these are things that sum up the calculation you will do to give your customer. Even though you are not going to, even though when you are selling export, when you are doing export, you might not pay the VAT, but there are other kind of tax that you will be expected to pay. You need to be aware of the insurance policy, how the insurances work, how can I insure this? So when you know all these things, you need to understand the system, how the system works, processes. Because when you understand the system, if a service provider wants to sell something to you and something is not properly calculated, you can easily get this out. But if you don't understand the system, those kind of things might go under and you will not know, and you end up making a loss in your business. So you need to be very familiar with the industry. You need to expand them, get the right contact, get the right people who can advise you if you're missing any information. One of the things I learned was to do a proper documentation, especially anything that concerns invoice and proof of delivery. Proof of delivery means if I'm sending any products outside the European community, these products will not attract VAT because I'm sending is an export. Then I have to also show that these goods really left the European community. So proper documentation is one of the things I was not familiar with at the beginning, which I've learned over the period. And of course, how to issue business documents like invoice, pack list, all those kind of things. And another thing I also learned in the course of my business is communication, kind of a professional communication. How do I communicate? How do I write emails? How do I call people on the phone? How do I negotiate? How do I build my business network? How do I talk to people? These are things I've learned over the period, and also most importantly is how to calculate business transactions to make sure that you don't run into risk or you don't run into losses. You can reach out to me if you have need on supply chain, which is export and imports. You can reach out to me if you have need for procurement in the European community or in Nigeria, or if you have need for intercultural training or intercultural negotiation. Intercultural negotiation is if you have a company that you want to deal business with, you can always ask me to go and represent you. I can also be of help. And you can reach out to me through my telephone number. That's the best, easier way to reach out to me. 0049 1521 3681 794. That's the easy way to get to me.